Do you ever go to create graphics for your business and just feel a little bit lost? You feel like you don't fully know what you're doing. You feel like you're not too sure about the direction and what kind of look and style you should be going for. Sure, you've got some brand elements, but nothing you create feels quite right and you're not too sure how to apply your branding. You want to create a strong brand identity that's memorable and recognizable, but you also want to do designs that are interesting and different and not just producing the exact same thing all the time. So how do you find this balance? What do you do when you feel lost creating graphics for your business? If you feel like this, you might be missing a few things when it comes to your brand identity. So let's have a look at them so we can identify what's going wrong and how you can fix it. First of all, you need to make sure that your brand identity covers all your needs. So as you go to create a design, do you find that all the brand elements that you need are there? Do you have a good enough range of fonts and colors and little brand elements and graphics and photos? Or are you getting to a point where you're creating something and you just feel like something's missing, you need something else, there's nothing else that you've got in your brand, so you end up going and straying and grabbing other things. You mock up some new texture or background because nothing you already got for your brand feels right and you don't want just a plain solid color background. Or you feel like the space just feels a bit blank and you need some elements, but you don't have any in your branding, so you just go and find some random elements and put them in. Anything in your brand identity has been forgotten or overlooked. This is where you're going to feel lost from creating graphics because you don't have all the pieces you need. You're trying to put something together, but you don't have all the pieces you need. And that's why you're feeling so lost and like you're struggling. If you've got all the parts you need to make it happen, it's going to be so much easier to put something together and in a way where your brand stays consistent. If you're missing things, that's when it's just going to feel a mess because you're just trying to grab whatever you can find that could work to try and finish this design off. And then your branding ends up looking sloppy and a bit inconsistent and messy because you're just adding random things all the time rather than having a clear brand identity with all the different elements that you need. It's like trying to make a cake where you've got the freedom to make whatever kind of cake you want, but you're missing sugar or you're missing flour. And so you're just substituting with some random thing to try and make this work. And it just isn't working. So it's so important as you start designing to notice if there's any holes in your brand identity. Are you finding you're getting stuck because you don't have enough backgrounds? Do you not have enough little graphic elements that you can use? Your color palette doesn't have a wide enough range. Maybe you're frustrated because the colors you have feel too narrow and you feel like you need a few other colors you can throw in there. Find those holes so then you can write down, these are the things I need to be adding to my brand identity, and then you can work on those things, add them into your brand identity, and as you go forward and design more graphics, you're going to have all the parts that you need. Next, each element of your brand identity needs to have rules. Rules about how it should be applied and how it shouldn't be applied. This is so important because otherwise we can feel a bit unsure about how to use our brand elements. You could very easily use the exact same brand elements and create a completely different look and feel just by the way you're applying them. So it's so important to actually have rules about how they should be used. This can be things like in what circumstances should different colors be used and what ratio. So should this color be used more than this other color? This color only used occasionally in small amounts. When should this particular font be used? Should it be always the header font and this one always the body copy font? Little things like that can make a huge difference to the consistency of your branding. If you don't have those rules, then you could apply your brand elements in all different ways and it can end up looking way less consistent because you're just pushing the bounds too much with those brand elements and creating completely different looks all the time because, oh, but I use those same elements, but you use them in such different ways that it no longer feels like the same brand. Now, to create these rules, you need to have a brand style guide. That's a document where you're laying out all the rules of how your branding should be used. And this means that whenever you're designing, you can just flick over to it, take a look and make sure that you're following the rules. Obviously, as time goes on, the more graphics you do, it will become more naturally because you know what you're doing. You'll probably also work on some template sets that follow the rules. You're not constantly having to refer to that book. But it's really going to help make sure that you stay on track. And also if you ever hire out any work, if you get someone else to work on some things for your brand, you can show that to them and then whatever they create is also consistent as well. It's also really important with your brand that you understand your audience and the platforms that you're on. Something that can be a little bit of a tripping point when it comes to applying your brand across all different places that you're on is really considering the audience on those platforms. So yes, it may be the same type of people, but they may be in a different mindset on each platform. So they might be in just a consumption mindset on some platforms where they're just scrolling through, checking things out. On other platforms, they might be in more of a buying mode. In other platforms, they might be looking more for community and connection. So it's really important to consider on every platform you're designing for, what is your audience's mindset in those moments when they're on that platform, and designing in a way that will suit that platform. So it means that there's slight differentiation in how you apply your branding on each platform. So for example, the style of graphics you create on Instagram might be very different to what you would do for a YouTube thumbnail, because it's a very different audience and there's different things that work on those platforms. So it's really important to consider this and really lay out, how am I going to apply my branding on that particular platform to suit my audience's frame of mind when they're on that platform, and also to suit what works on that platform, so that I'm making the most of being there and not just fussing over, but my brand has to look exactly like this no matter where I am. It doesn't mean that it looks completely different each place, but it's just these slight little tweaks, like maybe something is a little bit bigger or bolder in certain places. Maybe there's more of a focus of using your face on some platforms, and other platforms you use more curated, beautiful photos. So it's just considering what's going to be more appropriate on different platforms and getting really clear about how your brand looks in all those different places. Consistency in your branding also comes from feeling confident about your brand. Really feeling confident about the way your brand should feel and look. When you feel really certain and confident and know, this is how my brand feels, this is how my brand looks, as you create graphics, you're going to be able to confidently design in a way that suits that brand identity. If you're a little bit unsure and like, oh, maybe it should feel this way, maybe it should feel that way, and you're always a little bit in two minds about how you think your brand should feel and look. Sure, you've got your brand elements, but the overall feeling that you're trying to portray, you're always a little bit unsure about it. If you're feeling unsure and lack that confidence, then you're going to feel a struggle when it comes to creating graphics. It's really important that you feel confident knowing, this is how my brand should feel. So no matter what I create, whatever platform I'm on, I should always be creating this overall feeling. This also allows some freedom within your branding, because when you're confident about how your brand should look and feel, then you can be a little bit more creative and create some interesting designs and push the boundaries of what you can do with your brand identity, while still maintaining that look and feel and still using your brand elements. So really being sure about your branding actually frees you up. It's not about being super restrictive and you can only ever do things a very, very particular way. It's about having rules that you then work within to be creative within. Rules actually make you more creative, because you have to learn to work within those bounds. And so when you're really, really clear about what those boundaries are, and you're really confident knowing, no, these are my boundaries, this is how my brand should look and feel, these are the elements I should be using, this is what my aim is, then you can get creative within that. And you're going to feel much freer, because you're not just open-ended of, what am I going to do today? I don't even know what my brand should look like or feel like, and maybe I should try this style, maybe I should do that. You end up feeling more lost. So when you're really certain about your brand identity, then you can be more creative, because you've got that certainty, you've got those rules that you're working within, and now you can have some fun with it. This flexibility allows you to adapt to different platforms, different campaigns. If you're launching new things or putting something new out there, or you're doing a really fun marketing campaign, you can be creative with that, but still know, this is how my brand looks, this is how my brand feels, this is the elements I should use, this is how I should use them, and you just get creative within that. So if you've been feeling lost when it comes to creating graphics for your brand, really think about what it is that you might have been missing in terms of brand elements and brand rules, so that you know what it is you need to be working within when it comes to creating graphics. And if you realize that you're missing a brand style guide, I do have a template. You can find the template link in the description below. Now, if you'd like to learn more about branding, graphic design, and creativity, make sure you've subscribed to this channel, and I'll see you next time.